from WGEM in high definition. This is WGEM News at 6, the Tri-State's news leader.
There's a major shortage of substitute teachers in Quincy. So what's behind the trend and who's manning the classrooms? And
tense moments in Hannibal after a man with a gun is reportedly seen near the middle school.
Good evening. That suspect is behind bars tonight after a short foot chase ended at the YMCA. Police say 22-year-old Richard King was spotted with a handgun in the middle school parking lot about 1 o'clock. Now, authorities say when officers approached him, he became confrontational and ran away. Hannibal police found him a few minutes later hiding in a small room at the YMCA.
Meanwhile, Hannibal schools were put on lockdown as this situation was developing. WGEM's Kendra Whittle is following the story live in Hannibal tonight. Kendra.
Matt and Leslie, now I'm being told that for almost an hour, students here at Hannibal were not only protected by exterior doors like this that are always locked during a school day, but also the rooms of their classrooms. They were also not allowed in their hallways. Now, Superintendent Jill Janes says that they were notified by Hannibal police at around 1:15 this afternoon. Officers told her there was a suspicious person in the area and advised lockdown. Janes says that students stayed in their classrooms and no one was allowed to come inside the building until they were given a word that a suspect was arrested. She says the relationship between the police and the schools in situations like this proves it's an important one.
Once the police gives you the call, then you call the building principals and just say you need to go into lockdown. We tell them as much as we know, and then they immediately take over with the plans that they have in place.
Now, dismissal did take place as usual. However, Jane says they were prepared to continue with lockdown procedures if necessary. Reporting live in Hannibal, Kendra Whittle, WGEM News.
Kendra, thank you. A suspect in a Hannibal shooting who's been on the run for a week is captured in Mexico, Missouri. Hannibal police say 25-year-old Martez Pete was found hiding in the attic of a home yesterday afternoon. Pete is suspected of shooting a Kansas City man on January 28th in the 400 block of North Arch. But authorities say the victim was taken by friends to an apartment in Canton before they called for help. He was later taken to Blessing Hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Well, do you know who was teaching your kids today? Chances are it was a substitute.
That's because flu season is hitting hard. Just today, 83 teachers were absent in Quincy Public Schools. WGEM's Jenny Drasler is looking into this story live tonight. Jenny, this has become a constant struggle, hasn't it?
Yeah, Matt, it really has. And substitute teachers, well, they are always in demand, but especially more so right now with, like you said, flu and other sicknesses going around. And get this, just today here at Madison Elementary, they only could find 2 substitute teachers, even though they needed 4. And that's not that uncommon.
Can you count them?
Laura Overholser was substituting for a first grade class today at Madison Elementary and says on average she's asked to substitute teach 10 to 15 times a month. And she's not alone.
I'm surprised sometimes, like, when I sign in the morning and I see all the different names and sub beside it, that definitely it's not unusual for there to be 4 subs in a building.
QPS officials say it's almost impossible to find subs for every teacher out on any given day. So how do they handle the empty classrooms?
We'll pull teachers during their planning period to sub for that classroom, or we have internal subs that will use them that if they have a sub certificate to sub for that classroom and then fill that position.
Penny Little, QPS's administrative assistant, says on average the district has a 93% fill rate for substitutes, but it's finding substitutes like Overholser that's the difficult part.
We have a lot of absences right now due to flu-related sicknesses going throughout the building and stuff, so definitely are in need of subs. I mean, some days it's fine, other days it's not.
And as for Overholser, she just wants to do what's best for the district and, more importantly, the kids, no matter how many days a week that is.
It could be an everyday thing. It definitely could, and I'm kind of fortunate and I get some calls ahead of time, but if I didn't have it already lined up, definitely the phone's ringing.
Now, if you'd like to sub in Quincy, you'll need a bachelor's degree and you'll make $75 a day. But to fill in for a paraeducator, you'll just need a high school diploma, and with that, you can make $58 a day. Now, to apply online, we have that link to do so on our website right now at WGEM.com. Reporting live in Quincy, Jenny Drasler, WGEM News.
Jenny, thank you. Well, fewer than 1 in 5 high school seniors is proficient in science, but one Southeast Iowa school is trying to reverse that trend. WGEM's Andy Devine joins us in studio tonight to explain. Andy?
Teachers at Central Lee High School in Donaldson are trying to spark student interest in science fields like engineering. They offer a club that gives students real-world challenges to solve, and students say their participation in the club has made them want to study engineering in college. Central Lee High School senior Taylor Doyle and his fellow classmates are showing off an engineering project that took them hundreds of hours to complete. But Doyle and his group didn't even get graded on this project. It was part of a real-world design challenge they competed with on a state level this last weekend as an extracurricular activity.
Kind of nice to see our hard work pay off and everything. It's kind of a celebration of what we've all done.
Central Lee science teacher Jamie Sue Smith, who started the program, says her hope is to give students a glimpse into this career field.
As a teacher, I hear often that students want to be an engineer when they go to college, and so I stopped and thought, what can I do to make sure they know what it means to be an engineer, and presented this program to the students.
And that's exactly what senior Christopher Crable says the club did for him. Crable has been accepted into the engineering program at Iowa State University and says he thinks participating in the engineering club has given him an edge over the competition.
It helped me see how the engineers use the programs and how the drafting and engineering processes work, so I knew a little bit more before I went into college.
Doyle also wants to study engineering when he graduates and says, like Crable, the club has increased his interest in the field.
Textbooks can tell you so much, but actually doing it teaches you more, I think.
Another group of Central Lee students will compete later this month in a state robotics competition. Andy Devine, WGEM News. Matt?
All right, thanks, Andy. A Northeast Missouri teenager is arrested after reportedly taking chemicals from his school and trying to make gunpowder. 17-year-old Gregory Garner of Ewing is charged with possessing an explosive or incendiary material. The Lewis County Sheriff's Office says Garner allegedly stole chemicals from a Highland High School science room. Authorities say there's no indication Garner intended to hurt anyone with the gunpowder.
A Quincy man is sentenced to more than 4 years in prison for driving a backhoe while under the influence and other drug charges. 49-year-old William Minor pleaded guilty to meth possession and DUI. Now, Quincy police say they found meth when Minor was originally stopped on October 25th. Then, while out on bond, Minor was stopped again the next month, and this time he was driving a backhoe. Police say they found meth again and items used to make that drug in the vehicle.
Quincy firefighters didn't have far to go this afternoon when they responded to an accident right in front of Central Fire Station. This was the scene at 9th and Vermont just before 12:30. Quincy police say a white SUV was crossing Vermont when it collided with the van. The driver of the SUV was ticketed for not obeying the stop sign. No one was seriously hurt. Coming up next on the Tri-States News Leader, finally some good news on the job front in southeast Iowa. Details on why people are being called back to work in Fort Madison.
And are you up to date on your shots? Find out what a new study reveals about adults and vaccines. That's coming up.
From WGEM in high definition with Matt Schmidt, Leslie Van Ness, storm track weather with meteorologist Brian Inman, and sports director Ben Marth. This is WGEM News at 6, the Tri-States News Leader.
Economic development officials in Fort Madison say they're hopeful by the recall of factory workers to the Siemens plant. Last week, the wind turbine factory announced it was recalling 13 of the 400 workers that were laid off last fall, and plant officials say they hope to hire back another 73 workers in the coming weeks. Officials say the announcement is a good sign for economic growth in the area.
Obviously, with any kind of job callback is going to be a positive thing for Fort Madison and the region, and not to mention Siemens in general. They had a number that they were sticking with that obviously is going to increase. Hopefully it's because of the production tax credit extension.
Siemens officials blame the layoffs on a difficult market and a lack of congressional action on a wind energy tax, but that was finally passed last month.
New jobs are coming to Rushville with a $13 million upgrade at the Illinois Detention Facility. State Senator John Sullivan announced the Department of Human Services Treatment and Detention Facility is adding space for 300 more inmates to help alleviate overcrowding. Now, the Rushville facility is the state's only detention center that houses sexually violent criminals. The first phase of the expansion is scheduled for late February or early March.
Harris Corporation announces the sale of its broadcast division as being completed now. An affiliate of the Gores Group agreed to purchase the business in December for $225 million. As for the future of the Quincy facility, the Gore Group has not returned a request for comment by WGEM News.
You may take your kids to get their vaccines regularly, but a new report from the CDC says many adults fail to do the same for themselves. WGEM's Casey Geraldo is live in the newsroom tonight with more details on this story. Casey?
Leslie, the report says many adults are missing on a number of important vaccines like Tdap, HPV for women, and for seniors pneumonia and shingles. Jan Hummel with the Adams County Health Department thinks that after people get out of school and vaccines aren't required, they forget about immunizations. Hummel says adults need to keep up with their vaccinations, if not for themselves, for more susceptible children they may come into contact with.
The most important thing is the tetanus with the pertussis. The annual flu shot is, of course, important for everyone over the age of 6 months. And also, as I mentioned, the hepatitis A.
The Adams County Health Department has vaccine clinics Mondays from 1 to 6 and Wednesdays from 1 to 4. Vaccines may vary in cost for adults. Reporting from the newsroom, Casey Geraldo, WGEM News.
All right, thanks, Casey. Some music students at Quincy Senior High School are being recognized as the best of the best in the state. 25 students were selected by the Illinois Music Education Association as all-state musicians. With that number, Quincy High has the second highest amount of all-state musicians of any school. Music director Kathy Dooley says she's proud of her students and also credits the hard work from her staff for the accomplishment.
We have these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful teachers who are, who work with them every day, day in and day out, to perfect these skills and help them hone their talents, and really they deserve all the credit.
And if you want to see the full list of the all-state musicians at Quincy High, you can go to this story at WGEM.com.
Coming up on WGEM News.
Ben Marth explains how the Griggsville Perry basketball team has turned its season around thanks to a senior guard who's become a complete player.
And yoga for 5-year-olds. Some local kindergartners get an early stretch. We've got that story coming up.
And we've got some rain to talk about in the forecast and some pretty decent temperatures. The details right after this.
And now, WGEM Storm Track Weather with meteorologist Brian Inman.
Warming up today. Temperatures up into the mid-40s for most of the tri-state area. Similar numbers for us tomorrow. And some rain on the way. Let's take a look outside live tonight. That's Quincy Sky Cam, courtesy of the folks at Sleep Tight. A little bit of fog possible tonight as we go into the overnight hours. We'll be keeping an eye on that. It doesn't look like it'll be anything too dense. Then we go from Quincy, looking over to the Canton area, looking across the river. You can kind of see where the Yeah, you can see over on the Illinois side there. This is the way it looks as we go then down to the Macomb area. Temperatures everywhere in the tri-state area on the mild side today. Daytime high today all the way up to 47 degrees, so just a couple of clicks away from the 50-degree mark. Low this morning down around 26 degrees, so you can see where average temperatures sit this time of year. 36 degrees for a daytime high and 20 degrees for an overnight low. Those temperatures that we've got in this forecast most of the time stay above normal for the next 7 days, and we do have the potential for rain not just once but twice. So tonight, when the temperatures drop back down into the mid-20s, dew points will stay up just a little bit, so we may see a little bit of fog developing. 29-degree dew point right now, 37-degree temperature. We'll start to see that develop right about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. 37, 38, 39 degrees at 6 o'clock in the evening. We still have some warmer numbers in the Macon area and Bowling Green, with temperatures coming in the 40 and mid-40s over towards the Macon area. Here's the northwesterly wind flow. Not as strong as it was at times yesterday, but that northwesterly wind is with us tonight. And while we warmed up decent today, up to around the 47-degree mark, and the temperature's still in the 30s right now, we'll drop down tonight to around 20 to 22 degrees for most of the tri-state area. There'll be times of intermittent clouds and clear skies tonight. No real predominant type of cloud cover for us tonight. Here's what's going on. We've got a low pressure center that's to the north of us and a little bit of a dry frontal boundary that slides in. While this is a little bit of a cool front, any active weather stays to the north of us, and we start to put our focus on what's going on here. This brings in the potential for some scattered showers and thunderstorms when we go through the overnight hours Wednesday and in through Thursday morning. And right now it looks like we could see some measurable amounts of moisture in the order of a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of rainfall, especially across northeast Missouri and central or southeastern Iowa. And here it comes. storms. Wednesday in the overnight hours, say 3 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, we start to see the potential for a little scattered shower activity. The freezing line stays just to the north of the tri-states, and while this shows this dipping down into portions of Macomb and Hancock County, you may see just a dash of sleet real quick off the get-go, and then this starts to flip over to a little bit of rainfall for the tri-state area. It persists for a little while. By noon on Wednesday or Thursday, things are off to the other side of us, a little bit of cloud cover, then we break out to a mostly clear sky overnight Thursday night into Friday morning with high pressure building in. That's what goes on in the next 48 hours. 22 degrees tonight, mostly clear skies, mild for us tonight. It's not a bad temperature for the overnight lows, but we do have the potential again tonight to see a little bit of fog, especially in some of the low-lying areas. So we go from 22 degrees back up into the mid-40s for daytime highs tomorrow. Instead of a northerly wind, the wind kicks out of the southeast. It'll be a little bit on the light side. And tomorrow night, temperatures stay above the freezing mark at 35 degrees. Scattered showers develop again with maybe a little spit of sleet right off the get-go, and then we see that flip over to some rainfall. Temperatures 47 degrees, then 40 degrees, then back up into the mid-40s on Saturday. Thunderstorms on Sunday. A little bit of an interesting scenario developing across the Midwest for Saturday night into Sunday. We'll be keeping an eye on that Sunday forecast for sure. The potential there may be somewhere in the Midwest right now. We haven't quite laid it out just exactly because it's a little ways off to see some pretty strong storms, but looks like a potential there for some thunderstorms on Sunday, and spring-like temperatures at 52 degrees for a daytime high.
I was just looking at that, 52.
52, not bad for us really for February.
We'll take it. All right, thanks, Brian. What's going on with you, Ben?
Learned today that Brian Inman likes Girl Scout cookies.
Ooh, what's your favorite?
7 boxes. You not?
You know what? I bought them because your daughter asked me to buy them,
She's
and my
adorable.
kids will love them. I couldn't say no to her.
I know.
I unfortunately have to all the time. On the way, the Cards starting rotation takes a hit before spring training even begins. Plus, well, QND preparing to welcome home a Super Bowl champ, and the Lady Raider basketball team making a move in the state rankings. But are they now the #1 team in the state? Got that answer next in sports.
And now, sports with sports director Ben Marth.
Now, things were bleak at Christmas for the Griggsville Perry basketball program. The Tornadoes, they were 1-8, but ever since they've climbed back to the 500 mark. WGEM's Dylan Austin explains how the remarkable turnaround has a lot to do with GP's top senior.
Dryden Craven is probably the best shooting guard in the region that the casual fan couldn't identify. He leads Griggsville Perry with a quiet confidence and a game that speaks volumes.
And he's just a great story where he's come from. He had leukemia as a little boy, and he's such a quiet kid. He's not a leader by his voice, but he's a leader by example. And every day he's in here working hard.
A recent member of the 1,000-point club, Craven continues to move up the ladder in Tornado history, where his family had already made an imprint.
He said it was even more important to get past his dad up on the school's career list, so he's passed him up now, which is pretty neat, pretty special to keep that community camaraderie.
It's kind of fun, be able to say score more points than you, but he just said congratulations, and that is proud of me.
But just like any other complete player, the immeasurable aspects are what tie it all together.
What's the biggest difference you think in your game? Where have you physically, mentally improved the most, coming into this year?
I think I've tried to cut down on turnovers and play better defense. Offense can come whenever you need it to, but if you play defense, then that'll lead to offense.
But now he's just blossomed, and it's just such a wonderful story that here he is, a healthy young man that's not only great on the basketball court or on the baseball field, but also in the classroom and off the court. And we're just blessed here at Griggsville Perry to have someone like him.
Dylan Austin, WGEM Sports, Griggsville.
Thank you, Dylan. Fresh off last week's successful 3-game stretch, which saw them beat 3 state-ranked opponents in 3 consecutive days. The undefeated Quincy Notre Dame girls basketball team, they've moved up a spot to #2 in this week's Class 3A state rankings from the Associated Press. Lady Raiders trail only 3-time defending state champ Lombard Montini in the top 10. No other area teams are state ranked. Quincy High boys, by the way, falling out of the poll after 2 losses last weekend. Speaking of QND, the school is planning to welcome home alum Ravens lineman and Super Bowl champion Jack Cornell with a pep rally on Friday afternoon. That starts at 1:45 at the Pit. By the way, that event's open to the public. To borrow a boxing analogy, the face of the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff once again down for the count. But the real question is, can he get off the mat, or is Chris Carpenter's latest setback a knockout blow? This afternoon, Cards management announced the 37-year-old Carpenter will likely miss the entire 2013 season after the same nerve injury in his right shoulder, which sidelined him for most of the 2012 campaign, has returned. It's certainly not out of the question that retirement nears for Carpenter. In fact, General Manager John Mozeliak said today it's likely the winner of 144 career games in the big leagues will never pitch again. Tough news for St. Louis. We've got Sports Extra tonight at 10. Hope you join us. Final word coming up next.
Kindergarten students at Ellington Elementary in Quincy had a special PE class today. Angie Assman from New Fit for You came to school to teach the students yoga. Assman says classes like this are important to teach kids how to stay active, and she hopes the kids take what they learn home and do it with their parents as well to get them moving.
Gee, you think they had fun?
Yeah, I think so. So what can we expect tonight, Brian?
Tonight, not too bad, really. Temperatures running about normal tonight. Tomorrow, the next day, temperatures running above normal. We've got our eyes on Thursday with a shot at some rain overnight Wednesday into Thursday. And then we look towards Sunday, the potential for some thunderstorms.